Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen QueenAShakur show. I'm your host, Queen QueenAShakur, and this is your Daily Vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Queen QueenAShakur. You can also follow the Queen QueenAShakur fan page on Instagram and Twitter, and you can follow the Queen on Twitter at dgoddess27. Also, make sure you go over to my website, www.queenqueenashakur.com, and subscribe so that you're added to my email list. Okay, so as I promised you all, I have Bishop Caldwell here, and he's going to talk to us about the Black women that have been killed in Kansas City, Missouri. Some people suspect it's a serial killer. The police say that it's unfounded. So we're going to get into that. Okay, hello, Terry. Hello, Workout 218, M. Flournoy, Dana. Ant is in the house, or A-N-T. Stacy, M is blessed. Woke One is here. Patriot 420, Curly Girl, Jean. Cherokee Descended Dale, Claudette, Hundia. Queen Imoni Huey. Kenyetta, Toy, Nessa. All right, Silent D, I see you. Shout out to my moderators putting in work. Louise, Peaceful Living, Dragon Lily, the Trinity Time Travel Show. All right, That Crazy Beach Aries, Claudette. All right, and Mr. Hotel, I know you're in here somewhere, even though I didn't see you. There he is. It says, this is going to be excellent. Thank you, beloved. Melanated Mantra and Irfan is in here. Shout out to everyone in the chat and everyone tuned into the Queen. Okay, Bishop, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Bishop T.R. Caldwell with the Justice Center and Eternal Life Church and Family Life Center. And thank you for having me today. Deeply appreciate you allowing me to speak today.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well,
you're absolutely welcome. So we want to talk about these women, these Black women that have been found dead, murdered, in Kansas City. Now, there was a TikTok post. This is what caught my attention. There was a TikTok post from Kansas City Defender, and they were saying that it was likely a serial killer. Then when I went to that person's TikTok page, the video had been removed, and there was information on there, your information. That's how I reached out to you. So please tell us, share with us what you know about this case or these cases.
One of our IMO community at the Justice Center, we have an organization that is made up of over 87 other organizations that have come together to do positive things in the community and figure out problems and find solutions for those problems. One of our coalition members called us up and said they had an issue with a missing child. So we sent our peacekeepers over, which is another group of men that kind of patrol the area, kind of like back in the day, the what was the hell? Not the Hells Angels, but okay, what's the group? It's all in red all the time.
I think
Guardian Angels. Yeah, like the Guardian Angels. Yeah, kind of like the Guardian Angels group, which is our peacekeepers. And so we went to go looking. We interviewed with the father, and as we was interviewing with the father and the auntie about the missing young lady, the father was telling us about, and the auntie about how they discovered all this other information as they were looking for their loved one, other kids missing. And then they interviewed a store clerk and a store owner, and the store owner was saying, I hope it's not one of the missing young ladies that we found dead. And that struck everybody as peculiar because the store owner found two young ladies dead near his property that never got reported in the news by the police. So as we're still looking for this missing young lady, they ran across two more cases of missing people that were found dead. And none of these four had ever been reported as has never been reported as being murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So we started gathering the information and found out they were kind of killed in the same similar fashion. But no one has said a word, period. The police didn't say anything. And in the community, because unfortunately we have a lot of homicides here in Kansas City, it just kind of got overlooked a lot. And when we started interviewing with some of the family members, and we did a call out to the community for people to come forward, and people started telling us about other missing kids, other missing ladies, family members that they know of that's been murdered in the same area. And a young lady said, well, that's a serial killer. We have a serial killer. And at first, we don't want to believe it.
Mm-hmm, right.
Then as we sat down and started going over all the facts and the people that were coming forward, yes, we do. Now I know the police saying there's no evidence to them of a serial killer, but we looked up the definition, and I challenge anybody just to look up the definition of what a serial killer is. A serial killer is a person or persons that have committed two or more murders over a period of time. Now, that can qualify for folks that are in gangs that, as initiations, have to kill people. There was a time point where they were killing elderly ladies to get in gangs. You had to kill at least 5. Well, you're a serial killer. I mean, that's what you do. And now that these young ladies are coming up missing, and now young people in general, we're starting to see that there's a trend going on, but nobody's talking about it. It's kind of being hush hush or trying to be discredited. And we've got some news why it's kind of being discredited and pushed underneath the rug. Well, we were told also, we're in the running for the World Cup in Kansas City. And information like that would not be good to be out in the public for our image. And I know they're trying to change the name for Kansas City from Killer City to something nice. And I understand that, and I agree with that. But still, it should not be at the cost of our people dying to make a dollar. That's the end result to me. And we hear, well, it's football season. The Chiefs are doing good, or they're on their way to doing good. Well, that will affect our tourism and the dollars for people coming to Kansas City if there's a serial killer here, or that kind of gets out. Well, now you start looking at World Cup, football season, sweep everything underneath the rug. I was just told recently that there was 2 homicides out in a preferably nice neighborhood, Overland Park area here in Kansas City, but they wouldn't even talk about those. Again, because of it affects the tourism dollars and it affects the overall image. I don't care about image. I care about life. I care about making sure our sisters are protected and our babies are protected and our elderly are protected. All the money in the world is not going to replace a life. It's just not.
That's absolutely right. Now tell me about this. It's really sad that they put priority on money rather than human lives, like you said. Tell me about this situation where you said there were people coming up dead, and there was someone who was arrested, and then the murders continued.
Yes. when I first got started here in Kansas City, well, I've been around all my life, but we've been doing community activists and neighborhood cleanups. And we were doing a neighborhood cleanup many years ago. This was over almost 15 years ago. And as we were doing a neighborhood cleanup, we ran across a decomposed body in a field. And, it's a shock to these volunteers. Here's a body and, the smell and everything else. And hence, that's where the Terry Blair case begun. And as we was doing these neighborhood cleanups, we kept finding one body after the next, one body after the next. I think we found 4 bodies at that time point.
What?
Just 4 bodies doing neighborhood cleanups.
Wow.
Decomposed women. And these were women of the night, prostitutes. And at that time point, people didn't really care because a prostitute goes missing, nobody cares.
Right.
Yes, their family does, but people just kind of sweep it underneath the rug because of their lifestyle. Their lives matter. They still have value. They still are loved by someone. It doesn't matter that they're doing what they're doing at that moment because they could always change their life. They still are human beings, and they
That's right.
deserve to be treated with love and respect like anybody else. Now, after Blair was caught, convicted, and put in prison, they stopped reporting about similar murders. But the murders kept going on. We found a couple of other bodies in wooded areas along Prospect, different areas in town. Just like the same way that we found these first ones. But he's locked up. I'm not saying he didn't have anything to do with it. It's either we have a duplicate serial killer or a copycat, or there were more than one going on at the time point. Because again, some of these young ladies had reported when Blair was trying to get them, there was another person in the van with him.
Really?
But that just kind of got overlooked. So it was like, well, no, he was just riding around with them, and it was just a fluke. Well,
this is also crazy.
It's too many coincidences. When you have too many coincidences, that's a pattern. And now if the murders can keep going on after the initial person is locked up, that's a serious issue itself.
There's absolutely, and here's the thing. There has been numerous of times throughout history in the United States where serial killers have absolutely been operating with another person, when there's been at least 2 of them and sometimes even more. Another thing is, this sounds very reminiscent of the story I was telling you about with the black women, the 51 black women found dead in Chicago. It was a pattern. They were killed in the same way, found in similar, places. And the person who was arrested for serial killings in Gary, Indiana, Darren Dion Vaughn.
Yes.
He actually admitted to killing women in Illinois, in Detroit, North Carolina, and California as well. And me and Thomas Hargrove, who I brought in here for an interview, we both said that we not only thought it was a serial killer, but we thought it was at least 2 and possibly even 3 serial killers. Now, of course, the police say this is unsubstantiated, but just judging from the instances and all the evidence and everything, and the confession from Darren Vaughn, it seemed to us like there was absolutely more than one serial killer. But go on, because it sounds very similar.
And it does. And if you look at, again, I go back to the definition. They said of a person or persons. They always left it open for more than one person that's committed these heinous crimes. But we, because we're just human, or because we let the media shape our belief and what we think, we're always thinking about this person, a serial killer has to be, this is the way the media makes it. So this is why a lot of time points the serial killers and murderers get away. The media makes it seem like a serial killer has to commit 20 murders. And as they commit these 20 murders, they have to be cutting them up in little bitty pieces or eating them or something of that nature. That's what the belief in our mind is of a serial killer. I could shoot 2 people or stab 3 people to death. I am a serial killer if I did something like that under the true definition. Yeah,
That's
over a
right. As
period of
long as
time.
you didn't do it right, if you didn't do it at the same day, let's say if you killed one person this week, and then next week you killed another person, and then next week you killed another person, that's a serial killer.
Yes. Or if I kill 1 a month. And a lot of way that, and we know this to be true in the hood. I'm just going to use that example.
Right.
We know this to be true in the hood. I could kill somebody this month. I could wait 4 or 5 months, kill another person. I could wait a year, kill another person. Because now I've gotten away with the first murder, the second murder, the third murder. Mm-hmm. Now in my mind, I could just kill randomly anytime that I wanted. I am a serial killer if I did something like that. Because it's been over a period of time. It doesn't mean that it has to be, like you said, all in the same day, all in the same month, all in the same week. It can stretch out. In some serial killers, we had one, Burdella, here in Kansas City. He did it over years. Years. It wasn't, he operated a nice, beautiful store on Westport. And he was killing people and seeing their skulls in his store. And people were buying them as novelties. And that's how he got caught, because one of the skulls ended up being a human skull, and somebody figured out what it really was.
Wow.
But he was doing this for years and got away with it.
What was his name again? I'm going to do some research on him.
Burdella.
Yep. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And these are things that we don't look at. And again, he was snatching people. People were coming to a store, vagrants around his store, and they would come up missing, and nobody would look for them. It hurts my heart that we allow the media to shape our belief so much. Mm-hmm. We had a young lady that the media had reached out to. Now, I want you to listen to this carefully. The media reached out to this young lady to discredit KC defenders, to discredit their story about missing people and the murders in Kansas City. Now, when they reached out to this lady, she got on and said this: y'all need to take down this thing about missing kids and the serial killer because it's doing harm. There hasn't been any missing kids. There's not no serial killer. Y'all need to take all that down. It's false because it's hurt me trying to find my daughter that's been missing.
What?
Hold on. I'm sitting there thinking,
how is that hurting?
Yeah. But I'm like, if there was no missing kids, how's your daughter missing? She didn't even understand what she said herself. So even in her own explanation of why it should come down, she proved the point. Her own daughter is missing. Her own child is missing. And she's saying there are no kids missing. We did a big search a few years ago here in Kansas City with the FBI, the Homeland Security, and we found 13 missing kids out of 30 missing kids that are still missing just in this local area. That's a problem within inside of itself that we never even look at. These kids were run away from home for different issues, and people go, well, they just left or they just did whatever. These kids are still missing today. 38 kids still missing.
There was a story.
It popped up on my timeline today. Mm-hmm. And that's what brought it back to my memory. It popped up on my timeline today of the missing kids 5 years ago.
This is kind of reminds me of the Atlanta child murders. Mm-hmm. It just seems like that. And then also it reminds me of, it was maybe a year ago, I reported on a story where there was a Black woman who was looking for her kids. I think she had 2 kids missing. But either way, she was, or maybe it was her and another woman, but she was looking for her missing child, and she tracked their phone to a deputy's house, a police officer. And
Wow.
her and the entire neighborhood went there, and they saw a van in the backyard, and they were ushering kids out of the house and putting them in that van. And somebody recorded some of the footage on their cell phone. And then, but the police had such a logical explanation, let them tell it. They were trying to deny it all, like people didn't see what they saw. And I believe they said some of the kids had on handcuffs or something, but they brushed that story under the rug. Like, you literally have not heard anything else about it, nor have you heard from
And
the parents.
that's what gets me is we so quick to believe everything because of someone said it, or the police said it, or the media said it, or the TV said it. We're so quick to believe it. We won't even believe our own eyes. There was a young man that was being beat by the police. Now, I'm not anti-police or anything of that nature, but I'm just using this as an example. There's a young man being beat by the police, recorded being beat by the police. He's yelling, "I'm not resisting," has his hands up over his head, trying to protect his head because they're beating him in the head and kicking him and stomping him. When it all came out, they kept saying, well, he was trying to resist arrest. No, he's trying to protect his head from being murdered and killed. Yeah, and that was their excuse, and everybody, yeah, he shouldn't have kept moving. He shouldn't have been trying to resist arrest. But the
That's
video
a
was
normal
right
human
there.
impulse.
And we have been trained to just go along to get along. We can no longer do that. We can no longer just accept anything and everything because somebody said it. And if we don't do our own investigations, if we don't have our own media teams, and that's what I love about your show, if we don't get our own information out there, we'll buy anything. Or we'll just buy anything and go along with it. And that's more harmful than anything else.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. That's why we have to tell these stories. Like I always tell my people, that's why I cover these stories about missing Black women and young teen girls, specifically Black people in general, but specifically the young women and teen girls that are coming up missing at a much more rapid rate. Because the lamestream media, I call them the lamestream media, but they don't talk about these stories. They may give it, local coverage, but it's not going to be like a Gabby Petito, which makes international headlines, and they get helicopters and search teams out there looking for this woman. They don't do that when it comes to our people. So let me ask you this. With the Black women that have recently come up murdered, now, do they have any suspects? Since they're saying it's not serial killers, do they have any suspects as to whom they think it could be? Any people of interest?
This is what kind of became ironic. And I had learned to read between the lines. When we asked the police or when they called me, one, they said it was unaccentuated at the time point. But they can't talk about it or they can't make any remarks because it's an ongoing investigation. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, one, you're saying it's not happening. Two, you're saying you can't talk about it because it's an investigation. You can't have an investigation unless something is happening. So you're contradicting themselves at that moment.
Right.
They're not saying if they have a suspect, don't have a suspect. But I tell you this, and I think we all know this to be true. The streets know. There's people in the streets will talk. They may not talk to the police or the detectives because they don't trust them, but they will talk among each other. Mm-hmm. And that's how we came up with there's a serial killer, because there's a description going around of this person. And the streets know who the person is. They've been remarking about it for a while. We have a serial rapist in our same area here, and the streets know who the person is. They done told the police are like, nah. I mean, it's just going on and on. But and I know, all information, folks in the streets will talk about it. They know exactly who did it. And I'm going to go a little step further because I'm right across the board on everything. I believe in letting the truth come out.
Mm-hmm.
We know a lot of time points who's committing these homicides in our cities, in our towns. But because they live with us, because they are relatives, we don't say nothing
Mm-hmm.
until it happens to you, somebody in your family. Then you get upset. But
Mm-hmm.
because that person is maybe kicking you out money, or they're over here killing these people, selling buku drugs, and they get shooting people left and right, and you're benefiting from that, you don't say anything.
Right.
Now we need to start saying, you know what? We need to start saying, you know what? We got to protect ourselves. And the only way we protect ourselves is with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a son that did something illegal to where the police were looking for him, first thing I did was, no, son, you get in the car. We're getting an attorney, you get in the car, we're taking you in. I don't need them to come hunt you down and kill you in the
Mm-hmm.
process. So as a parent, I'm still taking up for my kid, but I'm making sure that my kid has everything that they need, and I'm making sure my kid's not being murdered in the process.
Right.
Accountability. We have to hold each other accountable in the right fashions instead of just sweeping things underneath the rug, or allowing the system to sweep things underneath the rug, and just not uh, looking at things with open eyes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a there are more than one serial killer in Kansas City, according to the definition of the FBI. Now, that's not just Webster. That's the FBI's definition of what a serial killer is. A person or persons that have committed two or more murders over a period of time.
And they
If
called
we
that
use
the
that,
cooling off period,
yes,
between the killings. Like with Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, he killed all of those people over like a decade.
yes,
Then you look at Ted Bundy, same thing. And often these serial killers move around and go from different states, state to
yes,
state. Some of these killers are truck drivers. So they're crossing interstate lines all the time. And they're not tied to some of these states that they're going to because they're just passing through. You know, they had one called the Interstate 10 killer, I think it was back in the 70s. And then
yes,
another thing, you mentioned that those women that when you found the decomposed bodies, a lot of them were women of the night. Well, they
yes,
target them because they do feel like society looks down on them, doesn't care about them. Many serial killers target these women. The ones in Chicago, Illinois that I covered, some of those women were also prostitutes, and the Green River killer was targeting them as well.
see, and that's because we have been sold a bill of goods that their lives don't matter. To
Mm-hmm.
me, our lives matter. You never know how that person is going to change their life. They may be down and out today, but tomorrow they might be deemed for greatness. And because we wrote them away or think their lives doesn't matter, that's the worst thing that we can do. We allow others to target them, and we target each other when we bring the truth. How many times have you
Thank
been
you.
targeted for bringing the truth?
Oh,
How many times
I'm
have you
so
been
glad you
ridiculed,
asked.
put down, threatened?
Thank you. Yes.
I got young men right now that, like Bishop, you can't go nowhere by yourself anymore. I was like, why not? We says, well, there's folks that want to kill you right now for telling the truth.
Yes.
I got a phone call the other day and talk about, look, we're gonna put two bullets in your head next time we see you on the streets.
Are you serious?
Yes,
Wow.
because so when you tell the truth, they will either pay somebody to kill you, they will get the media to discredit you so much, people will
Mm-hmm.
hate you. The
Mm-hmm.
media starts killing you first by what they put out. This is like, let's use this example, Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice, they did a character assassination on Martin Luther King before they killed him. They had to bring him down, with whatever they could say about him before they killed him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. They'll kill you here first before they start killing you. And they get other people to go along with it to degrade you. And like I said, I looked into you, and I see how many threats you've gotten, and how many folks have ridiculed you and put you down, and how
Mm-hmm.
the media themselves have come after you, how
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and everybody else have come after you. Because
Yeah,
when you speak the truth, those are things that they do because they're
absolutely.
scared, they're terrified
Mm-hmm.
of the way of life that you are changing people's ways of life and how they believe. So yes, they got to discredit you. Yes, they got to
Yeah.
discredit any story that you have or any information that
Mm-hmm.
you have. You know, they use words like
And sometimes,
allegedly. Yeah, go ahead.
right. Well, I was going to say sometimes it's our own people that do it because they are comfortable with lies and they don't want to face the truth. And so sometimes it's our very own people that'll do the same thing, as anybody else.
That's true. People go, well, the Willie Lynch was just a letter. It doesn't exist. I said, it's live and well. Just you saying that shows it's live
Right.
and well.
Proves the point.
Yeah.
Right. It's such
You-
cognitive dissonance and Stockholm syndrome. And if Willie Lynch wasn't true, well, first of all, that's where they get the term lynching from. That's where
yes.
it all comes from.
Yes.
So, but some people, I actually, when I was in college, speaking of that, I had a professor, a black professor, Professor Johnson. I never forget. He argued me down that it was not real, that somebody made it up. I mean, he
Oh my
seemed
God.
so brainwashed. I could not even continue to debate him over it.
You just look at the nature of the letter itself, or not the letter, but the formula. You pit
Yeah.
the old against the young,
Mm-hmm.
the small against the big, the mother against the daughter, the father against the son, the male against the female, the light complected against the dark complected. We have that going on right now.
That's
And,
right.
and we teach each other not to trust each other, but only trust the white man.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not why we're talking here today? We have been
Absolutely.
taught not to trust each other, but only trust what the media on that mainstream says, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
there's a young man here in Kansas City
Mm-hmm.
that even when these murders took place, he has two bodies sitting in his funeral home. I was told right now from the serial killer, he has two bodies sitting in his funeral home. But here it is. There's no murders. So why are those bodies sitting there?
Right.
So we have the tendency to believe the media, but not our own two eyes. There's two bodies sitting there that have been left there of missing people, but no one is saying that they're even there. This is crazy. That's
It's
crazy.
absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Well, it's just like, I mean, they tell us lies that are even ridiculous when you listen to them. Anybody with common sense should know that it's a lie, but some people still believe them. Like when they say someone found hanging from a tree, suspended 20 feet in the air, hands tied behind their backs, pants pulled down to their ankles. You remember the mother in Ferguson, Missouri, who was one of the main activists who started those protests down there when her son, Danye, was found hanging in
Mhm.
her own backyard and they told her it was a suicide. Her son, she said he had no symptoms of being depressed or any of those things. And she said, how would he have gotten himself up in that tree? And his pants were pulled down. Well, anyone who knows the history of the Klan, you would know that that's part of their telltale signs is to pull the black man's pants down to their ankles because that was to humiliate them even in death. And so you're
Yes.
going to tell me that he did that to himself? There was another young black man found in the bed of his truck, his 18-wheeler. He was hanged. His hands were handcuffed. And he was beaten also, but they said it was suicide. These things are ridiculous. How does anybody fall for this? And people just take the narrative, whatever narrative they give them. That's why I call the lamestream media the biggest propagandist machine, because that's all they do is spread propaganda. That's all they do.
There's a there's a slogan that scares me to death here in Kansas City that the media uses. A friend of mine is a reporter, and he told me what the slogan was. And when I heard it, it just sent chills up and down my spine. And the way that they judge a story is they won't tell you about the good stuff that happens in the community. They
Mm-hmm.
won't tell you about the young man that's taking care of his family, single father, taking care of his family, going to work every day. They won't talk about none of that. They won't talk about the young man that ran into a burning house to save the little old lady. They'll never mention that.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll mention somebody getting shot on the street corner and hype it
Oh
up
yeah.
every day.
Mm-hmm.
They won't even tell you the reason why the shooting happened. But they'll just play up
Right.
one side. And this is what he told me. He says, we have a slogan, and the slogan is, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's about blood and guts, it leads the newscast for the day. If it bleeds,
Mm-hmm.
it leads. It has to be bloody before
Yeah.
they put it on. It
That's what
has
they
to be
want to put
bloody
out.
before they come out. And that's how they portray us as savages, as disorganized, as folks
Mm-hmm.
that they can discredit. And they get us, like you said, to discredit each other. And they'll
That's
throw each other a
absolutely.
bone just to get on TV. And it
Yeah.
gets sent, it hurt my heart to hear this woman get on TV and talk about we need to take down a story. We need to stop talking about the missing kids because it's not true. And we need to stop talking about the serial killer because it's not true, because it's hurting the chances of finding her missing daughter. How can you
Mm-hmm.
say no one else is missing? In the same token, you're saying that your daughter is missing. If your daughter's
Right.
missing, can't somebody else be missing? I
What it
mean,
sounds like, what it sounds like they implanted in her head is that the fact, if we're saying other people's children are missing, then that's taking away the efforts to find her daughter who's missing. So don't say that anybody else is missing. That's what it seems like she was told. But that's
yeah.
also crazy.
And
It
what makes
that
it
would
so
actually
yeah, and what makes it so bad is no one's going to look for any of these kids. This man had
right.
to do it himself. The auntie had to do it herself. They had to reach out to community organizers and community leaders to go look for their kids. The system that's put in place does not do that. Now, I will say this. I do know that the police department is way understaffed here in Kansas City. Way, way, way understaffed. They need to just tell the truth and say, you know what? We don't have enough officers to go look for your child. I could buy that. I could buy that instead of them telling me, well, we're going to get around to it. You don't have enough. If we need to have 3,000 officers on duty at one time point and we only got 500, we got a problem. So I know you're not going to take no other calls. I know we're not priority to you. And just tell us the truth. We can deal with the truth, but all these lies and cover-ups, we can't deal with that.
That's
We don't
right.
even have a jail here in Kansas City, and the criminals
Really?
know that. Yeah, they know that if they commit a crime, the longest that they can be held is 24 hours before they let go. I go into a liquor store, rob a liquor store right now. I rob the liquor store. They take me over to the jail. The holding cells in the precincts, but they don't have a main jail, a main city jail. And I can sit there for 24 hours. They have to give me a bond or a bail ticket to be released because they have nowhere to house me. That's an issue.
I showed a video about that, what you just spoke about. I showed a video about that maybe a month or so ago. Yeah, because there was these two different jurisdictions of police arguing because they said they couldn't keep them at one jail and they were having them transported to another one. And the guy said, "Why don't you just give them the citation and let them go?" or something like that. They were arguing over the police were. I think that might have been Kansas City. So let
Yep.
me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So, I was telling you about the people in Chicago. I've had several people from Chicago tell me that they found crates of guns in alleys with exotic guns, not the kind you would just typically find in a gun store or a gun shop. But these were expensive, exotic guns just found in crates early in the morning. And so they expect us to think that all of these shootings on the weekends where 40, 50, and 60 and 70 people are shot. One weekend, there was literally 72 people shot. They didn't even have room for them at the hospital. So they're expecting us to think this is always gang related, but some of these people have told me that it's often racist people in derrick suits. Those suits you buy, you order them, they look prosthetic, and you put them on, and they make you look like a black person. I'll pull one up. But has anything like that ever happened in Kansas City?
Oh yes. Oh yes. It happens all the time. But we don't recognize it because we're looking for other things. I used to say as an example, here in Kansas City when when they were just having the arguments among the police and the verdicts of the homicides of oh God, what's his name? When he couldn't breathe and they stepped on him and killed him.
George Floyd.
George Floyd. When that happened, people turned against the police all over the United States. Here in Kansas City, they had a standoff between the police and the community down on the plaza at the time point. And it got really, really bad. The citizens were doing a peaceful protest here in Kansas City. The police were sitting there on the other side of the barricade. A school bus pulled up about 3 blocks away. A bunch of folks got off that school bus with masks on, riot gear, helmets, baseball bats, backpacks full of water bottles that were frozen. Now, these folks got off the school bus. None of them looked like us. Not a one. When they got off with crates. They got off with giant containers and buckets with other water bottles that were frozen. Now remember, these are frozen water bottles, not water, but frozen water bottles. There were bricks that was brought in the day before the protest and set in different areas, piles of bricks, big piles of bricks. There were, and I want you to, this is just a small area of what transpired in front of everybody and them not even noticing it. When the problem started, those folks that got off that bus, that didn't look like us, that didn't even live here, started throwing these water bottles into the police. They started yelling, "Here's some more back here. Here's some bricks. Let's throw the bricks at them." They ran to the back of the crowd. The police rushed the crowd. Now, they've already agitated the police. They've already agitated the crowd. They've already laid the bricks out. They've already done what they needed to do. They got back on the bus and left after they got everything started and took off. And we took it from there, throwing at the police, yelling at the police. The bottles were there. The bricks were there. We've seen this same scenario happen with crates of guns in the city. All of a sudden, here's a crate of guns. We don't import guns. We don't import guns in certain areas of the town that we know that once that crate gets open, that it's. There was one that they found on a bus stop in a very heated area here in Kansas City, down in the middle of the projects. What did it do? Just fall off of a truck or army truck? No. And we just see that and overlook it. And in that area, when that happened, it was 5 shootings that week in that one area. This was just in one day.
This is all by design. Hold on. I'm going to pull up this. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see what I'm talking about with these derrick suits, how they literally look like black people, but they're not. One man dressed in one of these suits to kill his ex-girlfriend or something like that. It was all so crazy. Okay, so you see there?
Wow.
Now look, this is him right here. He put on this mask to commit a crime, to rob a place. And here's another guy. He robbed a casino. And you can see
See.
this guy right here is the whole robber. Now I'm going to go to the other footage so you can see him actually in the commission of the robbery. Oh, so crazy. And so those guns are put there by design. It's no accident. They had a rocket launcher found in Chicago in a neighborhood, and somebody luckily turned it in. This is the guy right here. That's him.
Mhm.
This is him while he's committing the robbery, though. Doesn't he look like a whole black man?
Yes, he does.
See? And that's because he was wearing this.
See.
That's what he was wearing. So that's a sneaky trick from the devil to sit there, and the whole time they've done this, but they have the police looking for someone who looks like us. Same thing with those shootouts, those shootings and drive-bys in Chicago. Many of them. I'm not saying some of them aren't gang related. I'm sure there are, but many of them, those are not gang activity. First of all, who's likely to commit mass shootings? Not us.
No.
I'm going to say there's a few of us who will, but majority of mass shootings are done by Caucasian males between the ages of 18 to 30.
Yes. You know, I deal with a lot of the gangs that they will tell you point blank, that ain't us, Bishop. I have a rapport with them because, you know, I'm from the streets myself. And being from the streets, you know, I still have a little reputation. Yeah, I'm a pastor. Yes, I'm a bishop. But they already know he ain't that type. He's not a go along, get along kind of guy. Don't rush him. So, you know, we've learned this respect thing over the years. And they'll come and tell me, Bishop, no, we did not do that. That is not us. We have a truce among the gangs right now, and we're not breaking the truce. But then we start looking at, again, what goes on in those areas. And this is where it becomes, again, economics. If there's an area where a bunch of crime is going in on, or happening at, or getting reported at, you see the people leaving that area. The city will actually shut off services to infrastructure in that area. Trash starts getting not picked up. Sewer lines don't get fixed. So people start leaving even more. All of a sudden, the property value goes down and down and down and down and down. People start leaving. People start selling their homes now for little to nothing to other developers, or other entities come in, buy that land up little to nothing, and they redo they tear all the houses down and redevelop it for condos at prices we can't afford. But we don't understand that you're being driven out of your own area at a mass rate by what the media does, by what the city does, by allowing the crime to fester, or even in sometimes manufacturing the crime itself.
That's right.
To make sure that you get up out of there. You know, slow response times for the police in those areas. Not hiring more police to rightfully patrol those areas. So if we're down 3/4 of the police department is gone, you only got 1/4 of the police department operating, that's a problem. How can you do anything with only 1/4 of the police department operating? And that has to go between 3 shifts. So now we have a major problem in our city. No jail, manufacturing crimes, low police response. What do you think is going to happen? We're going to feed off each other. We're going to buy the lies because we're going to survive. And we're not knowing that we're turning on each other for the little crumbs that they leave us. And we buy all the lies from the media each and every day about each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just also sad because at what point do our people just wake up and realize that we're being lied to and tricked, and that propaganda is being spewed? But truth is hate these days. Now, these days, now, when you spread the truth and you try to, unravel the lies and shine a light on it, now you're deemed as a hater. you know?
Yes.
And like you said, you'll be discredited and people start to attack and even threaten you. These are the unfortunate things that happen. Sometimes you can say something as a Black person and nobody's going to believe you until a white person co-signs it. And
Yes.
then if a white person co-signs it and says it's true, well, then it's true. That's just what it is. Also crazy.
It is.
Also
It's
crazy.
a shame. It's a shame. You know,
It
like I
really
said,
is.
I commend you for hanging in there for as many years as you have. And I know it has not been easy on you. And I want you, please continue. Continue.
Thank you. I
Somebody needs to
certainly,
speak up for us. Somebody definitely
thank you. I
does.
certainly will, Bishop. Yes, thank you. And listen, it was a pleasure having you on here. I know you're a busy man, so I'm going to let you go, but I appreciate you coming on here and giving us this information and everything. And I'm going to keep in touch with you. And
Yes,
if you have any information, any updates or whatever services, please reach out to me and let me know. And
I sure will.
we have to tell these stories because no one's going to tell them for us. They're going to try to
No,
sweep it under the rug. I mean, hey, they've already let us know basically that these murders going on in Kansas City, well, they're not as important as the city generating revenue so they can have the World Cup. And hey, let's not forget football season's right around the corner.
yep, that's it. We got to
We
have
that black
them
vote.
dollars. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. Also crazy. But this is where it is. But so thank you so much for coming on here. I appreciate you. Everyone, let's get
thank
some
you for
fire
having me.
emojis in the chat. Yes, absolutely. Let's get some fire emojis in the chat, beloveds, for Bishop Caldwell. All right. They
Amen.
want to know, do you have a cash app? They want to send donations. If you have a cash app.
Yeah, yes, we can do. It is KC Justice Center. $sign KC Justice Center.
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay. And all donations go to our feeding programs for those that are unable to have meals themselves. It goes to our abuse for our women and our underprivileged kids area. We have a feeding program every week, every day, literally, unfortunately, that we do with our senior citizens. So that's where it goes. And we appreciate you.
Oh. Yes, absolutely. We appreciate you. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude the broadcast. Royals, I want to thank you all for tuning back in once again. Please like and share. Make sure you share this very important video. Okay, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all. Don't forget to follow the Queen on Instagram at QueenAShakur. You can also follow the Queen Shakur fan page on Instagram and Twitter. And you can follow the Queen on Twitter at DGoddess27. Remember, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Peace.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain, stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Samir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coon. The white man to go nuts if he can't shoot. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Ahmadiyah.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your
Ahmadiyah.
skin?
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, even to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyah.
So the only way we're going to get